Welcome to the 8th edition of World Intellectual Property Forum.
Hello, good day to all. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Ricardo Oltra. I work for the EPO and I am team manager of Team Agriculture, a team of 21 patent examiners who work in diverse areas of agricultural technologies. Today I would like to talk to you about innovation and patents, and in particular, of course, in my field of expertise, which is agriculture. And I would like to start with something which I believe is very important for all of us. It is about our future, and it is about the challenges that we will be faced with in a few years. So let me start by showing you this graph. This is, by the way, data from the United Nations Population Divisions, and it reflects the expected evolution in the world population in the next years. I'm sure you have seen already something like this, the exponential growth. And possibly you also know that it is expected that the population growth will stabilize in a few years. Few years meaning 2100 more or less if we see the data presented to us in this graph. But before that happens, population will continue to grow at exponential rate for several years still. As you see here in 2050 more or less, it is expected that the world will contain 9.7 billion people. And it is also expected, by the way, that these people will be richer in average than nowadays. And being richer means that they will consume more, they will eat more food, they will wear expensive clothes, for instance. Let me combine this data with something else. This is another map also from the UN, and it shows the expected evolution in land productivity, agricultural productivity in the next years. We see that all these countries that you see here in red will lose up to 50% the agricultural productivity in 2080. This is, amongst other reasons, due to climate change, for instance, but also because of overuse of the resources. Now, if we combine these two data, so in some years we will have a lot more people living in our world, and these people will have more necessities in terms of food, clothing, raw materials. And at the same time, we will have less productivity. So we'll have to feed them with a lot less land available. This poses a huge challenge for the future generations. And this is not something that we can solve by simply scaling up. We cannot use more land to feed these people because there is no more land. We are using already all that we have. So how do we solve this? How do we change this future? Well, in my opinion, what we need is innovation. So let me talk a bit about innovation in agriculture. Throughout the years, there have been many important innovations in agriculture, and all these innovations have impacted greatly our civilization. I don't know about you, but I have been confronted many times with people that think that in agriculture there is really nothing to innovate. Agriculture is something that technologically wise is not very advanced. People have the image of these backward farmers just working with their tractor in the field. However, this work, as I will show you in a moment, has impacted greatly all our civilizations and has defined who we are today, nowadays. Let's take, for instance, the very birth of agriculture. When agriculture was born, we stopped being simply small family communities of hunter-gatherers, and we settled down. We became sedentary, and the first cities and villages were born. Is this not an important revolution? But let's go a bit forward in time, now to the ancient times. And there was another big innovation, irrigation. With these irrigation technologies, the great civilizations of the past were born around the big rivers like the Nile, but also in India. There are very important ancient civilizations. And what we are today, the world of today, is based mainly in the heritage of these civilizations. And if we move forward in time, let's go closer to today, to the 19th century. What happened here is mechanization. At some point, somebody decided that it was a good idea to use the recently invented motors and engines in agriculture. And then tractors were born, and agricultural machinery started to be used. I really remember having read newspapers of the 19th century in the US with an article explaining that, with this new tractor, we'll do the work of 40 men and 20 horses. And then there was a lot of popular unrest because, of course, the people were saying, okay, and what are we going to do with our own employees? Because we will lose our jobs. And indeed, what happened is that many people moved from the farms, from the fields, to the cities because they had to find another job. And although Industrial Revolution was already ongoing, but these people, this workforce, they fueled the Industrial Revolution and they changed it forever, the world. If we come even closer to today, in the 60s, we have what we call the Green Revolution. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's a series of technologies and innovations, like the use of certain chemicals and specialized machinery, and so on and so forth, that is credited with saving millions of people from starvation. Is it not important? But as we saw in the graphs that I showed you before, this is not enough. We need something else if we are to face this challenge. And this something else, what we have today in the present, the next revolution that has the potential to change our world, is what we call smart agriculture. Smart agriculture, in a nutshell, is nothing else than the application of modern communication and information technologies to agriculture. So as such, and as I was saying before, nowadays the image of the farmer, backwards, working in the fields with a tractor, with his bare hands, is not there anymore. What we see nowadays in many farms in Europe and in the United States are farmers who work with high-tech devices. They work with a laptop, they work with the mobile phones, because smart agriculture involves a lot of new technologies, like, for instance, remote sensors, artificial intelligence, geomapping, integrated communications, and high-precision positioning systems, and also autonomous machines, by the way, and robots. So all this is now part of agriculture. To give you an idea, just in one small graph, you can see it here, that farmers nowadays, they are starting to, just with their mobile phones or with the help of a laptop, they are controlling a lot of autonomous machines, drones, they are controlling irrigation system, they are controlling and planning the application of chemicals. And what does it allow the use of all these technologies? Well, first of all, a lot more precision. So while in the past we were talking about, applying an amount of fertilizer or a certain chemical or even seeds to a field, to so many hectares, nowadays we can apply this to a single plant. Not so long ago, I met one farmer here in Europe who is one of the biggest specialists nowadays in smart agriculture, and he plants potatoes. And this farmer was explaining me, because he's doing this in the Netherlands, that he was actually planning the position and the orientation of each potato plant to maximize the sunlight, because sunlight here in the Netherlands is one of the factors that impacts greater the productivity and the yield of the plant. So like this, we really save a lot of work and we increase very much the productivity. So we are already addressing part of the challenges that we saw before. But on top of this, we consume less chemicals, less resources. So this is greener, and we have a more responsible consumption. And even if you may think that these high technologies and very complex devices may not be affordable, they are. They are because these small drones are very cheap, because many of these technologies, they can be applied by simply downloading an app to your mobile phone. So these smart agriculture technologies are easy to adopt even in poor and developing countries, and it's happening right now. It's happening today. I met also not so long ago a professor from Silicon Valley who was collaborating in a project with very remote villages in the mountains of Cambodia. And he bought a 3D printer for these villages. He brought a 3D printer to the villages, and then he and his team from Silicon Valley, they were in contact with the farmers there, and they were designing custom-made pieces of machinery and devices. And the farmers would simply 3D print this machinery and use it in the field. It was very cheap, it was very easy, and these poor farmers were actually benefiting from the highest advancements in technology in Silicon Valley, real time. So all these are some of the advantages of smart agriculture. But something that I like to mention very much is this fact. It is estimated that up to 95 of the harmful chemicals that are used in agriculture can be reduced, can be saved by the use of the super high precision of smart agriculture. You can imagine what this can do for our environment, where nowadays all these chemicals end up in our rivers, lakes, and seas, creating these dead zones that are really infamous, I would say. This could be something of the past. But now you may ask yourself, what does it have to do, all of this, with patents? Well, I think, of course, that the first thing that we can say is that innovators and inventors, they always invest time, effort, and even money in developing their ideas. And of course, they are expecting some kind of return for this investment. So a patent is always a good idea for protecting the inventions and for securing some sort of return for this. But on top of this, I would like to point out that according to several studies, and I cite here 2 of them, having a good IP policy and a good patent portfolio is really essential, especially now in times of crisis or recession, as we have now due to the corona. For instance, this first study that I would like to cite today, published by WIPO, the World International Intellectual Property Organization, reveals that certain patents, they made a study with 3 examples, that certain patents in agriculture, they generated an estimated 1.2 billion euros of benefit, of which around 80% went actually downstream to the consumers and to the processors and to the farmers. But there is another study, and this one comes from the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, that made very clear that during recession, during a crisis, all those companies that invested in IP and in a good patent portfolio, they perform much better than the other ones. So if these are not reasons to invest in a good IP policy and a good patent portfolio, I don't know what it is. Let me show you, just in case you don't believe me, a few of the patents we see nowadays in agriculture, in my team where I work. As you can see, this is not about mechanical parts or engines of big machines and very expensive. This is about small drones, remote control or even autonomous, about the small robots moving through the fields, and about integrating everything with the use of mobile technologies, smartphones, laptops, etc. So again, as I said before, the image of the modern farmer is changing. I would like to finish with a few examples of success stories. We have a few startups here as an example, but there are many others that they are companies which started really small, maybe at the university with a group of friends, 3, 4, in their postgraduate studies. And they had this great idea. And around this idea, they filed a patent. And around this patent, they built a startup, a company. and they were immediately successful. We have to remember as well that nowadays startups, they are born global. You know, whereas in the past, you would start your company in your town and you would only sell there and then little by little start expanding. Nowadays, thanks to the use of internet, you can have your startup anywhere in the world and have a web page that sells to all the other countries. So for this reason, it is also very important to have a good IP policy and a good patent portfolio protecting all these ideas and all your inventions as best as it can be protected. Here, the first example is a Swiss company from Switzerland, and they simply got this idea of use artificial intelligence controlling drones that would move around the field and would take a number of measurements and then creating models to predict yield and necessities like water, fertilizer use. And they provided a big increase in the production, big savings in money to farmers, and they are being really successful. They are selling a lot. Another example is Pharmatics. This is a Spanish startup, which started also very small with just very few people. And they created this robot, autonomous robot that goes inside the chicken farms and controlling everything and performing a number of jobs. So again, this saves a lot of workforce, this increases productivity, and it is selling a lot, especially in the US, although it was born in Barcelona in Spain. And finally, the last example, Aumenta. This is a Finnish company, startup, which uses really science fiction devices, some plug and play devices that use augmented reality for automating all the functions of several existing machines. So this can actually be plugged in a machine that exists already, and through augmented reality, you can control everything. It works a bit like if you have seen this movie, Minority Report, that with your fingers and moving your hands around, you can control everything. It looks science fiction, but it is not science fiction. It is the present. It happens today. It is being sold. This company is making a lot of money, and they're basing this success around the patent that they filed for this idea. I hope to have informed you, and I hope that this was very interesting for you. Thank you very much for listening. Have a very nice day.